Hey folks, let's be honest, PC gaming in 2025, it's just not cheap. The newly launched RTX 5080, it's got an MSRP of £999. Even AMD's better value RX 9070 XT, well, it's meant to be $599, but you'll likely be paying over 10% on that price, assuming that you can find the one that you want in stock. And that's just for the GPU. If you're starting from scratch, well, you can forget it. You could quite easily spend 1500 quid before you've even opened up Steam. But what if I told you that for under £300 you could build a complete system from scratch that runs modern AAA titles at higher than 1080p resolutions and feels shockingly close to what many would consider a higher end experience? Well, that's just what I've done, and it all started with a mistake on eBay. So this all kicked off when I placed a bid on what I thought was an old Intel i5 6500, but when it arrived, it wasn't an i5. It was a Xeon E5 1660v4. Now if you're not familiar, that's basically a locked Core i7 6900K. Nice. 8 cores, 16 threads, the Broadwell E architecture, 3.4 GHz all-core boost, and up to 3.8 GHz on lightly threaded workloads. Back when it launched, the 6900K, it cost over £1,000, until AMD came in swinging with the Ryzen 7 1700 for just over £300 and made it look pretty silly overnight. And now, its Xeon Twin, the same architecture, same core count, well, it cost me 20 quid. And that's when I knew that I had to do something with it. And that something was this Dell Precision 5810, a prosumer workstation that I picked up for just £109. It came packed with a 685 watt gold rated PSU, 16 gigs of quad channel DDR4 memory, front intake fans, a card reader, and a fairly sturdy chassis, along with a Quadro M2000 GPU, which is basically a rebadged GTX 950. It even included a XEON 1660v4, a quad-core CPU that's not terrible, but I immediately swapped in the 1660v4 right away. To bring this thing up to gaming spec, I added a Tenda AC1200 Wi-Fi card for £14, a 480GB Kingston SATA SSD for £25, and most importantly, my RX 3070, which I recently picked up on eBay for a smidge under £190. And while it is absolutely a card that I despised when it launched, I tested it when it launched, and compared to the competition it just did not make sense. It is possible that at this price point we might finally be seeing a redemption arc for the RTX 3070. To claw back some of the cash, I did sell a few of the parts. The original Xeon 1620v4 was sold for £12, the Quadro GPU netted me £49, and the Dell NIC got 14 quid for that as well. That's £75 recovered, bringing the net system cost to just £283. Now for the good stuff, performance testing. I tested Call of Duty Black Ops 6 using its excellent built-in benchmark tool across two systems, my main Ryzen 7 5700X 3D rig and the Dell 5810. So let's start with the Ryzen system. Since that CPU is fairly modern, we were 100% GPU bound in every single test scenario, which shows, I guess, the full potential of the RTX 3070 in these test scenarios. All scenarios were tested at 1440p on the balanced preset, but using a variety of DLSS upscaling, and going between quality, balanced and performance DLSS presets. We can see, as expected, the frame rate scales as we lower the internal resolution. So this is what the 3070 can really do when the CPU stays out of the way. Now I ran the same tests using the Dell 5810, but now on that older Xeon CPU, that's what becomes the limiting factor in a lot of these tests. But you know what? That's okay, because the results, even though they're lower, were still very playable. Using DLSS quality, we got 105 FPS average, and 80 FPS on the 1% lows. In this test scenario, we were 23% CPU bound and 77% GPU bound. Moving on to DLSS balanced, we became 68% CPU bound, meaning that the FPS on average it only jumped up to 115, while the 1% lows did jump up to 91. Again, it's still very playable, it still looks good, and while we're not maxing out the RTX 3070, I was still having a very good time. Now I did test DLSS performance to see if we could eke anything else out of it, but that's when we really hit the limits of the 1660. We were 94% CPU bound in this test scenario, which meant despite lowering the internal resolution further, we only hit 118 FPS on average, with the 1% lows jumping up slightly to 96 FPS. Now I'm sure you could look at these numbers and say, yeah, the 5700 XTD, it's faster. And of course it's going to be faster. But here's the thing, we're talking about a £20 CPU inside a £283 system. And we're still getting well over 100 FPS at 1440p in a modern title with DLSS enabled. This isn't a system for esports snipers chasing 240Hz, it's a value driven build that's all about smart compromises. And when you really lean on the GPU, those compromises just become less and less. Rarely have I found that something this bottlenecked in paper turns out to be this capable in the real world. And that's just one game. There's a full benchmark video on its way, and I'm going to compare this Dell Precision build against my modern AM4 setup in a variety of titles, and we're going to see how far we can really push this old budget setup. So subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it. So to recap this, 8 cores, 16 threads, 16 gigs of RAM, and RTX 3070 all for under 300 quid after reselling the unused parts. It's quiet, it's fast enough, and surprisingly modern even in 2025. It's not perfect, but it is perfectly playable. And at this price bracket, that is something that is absolutely worth shouting about. At the end of the day, when you finish gaming at these perfectly playable settings, you've still got a full 8 core 16 thread workstation which is happy to tackle any of the mundane day-to-day tasks that you want to throw at it. But hey, thank you very much for watching this. I'd love to know what your recent best buys on eBay have been, and what you would do next with this budget system. So for now, I'll just say take care, and I'll see you all in the comment section down below, and in the next video.